Today on Better Questions, I want to talk about siblings with autism. Well, some of the things that we worry about, me and my wife, is we worry if we're doing the right thing as parents by how we're raising her. Are we giving too much attention to Nolan and not enough attention to Rowan here? Are we being good parents to her as well as to him? How is having a brother that's on the spectrum going to affect her in the future? And of course, if I'm worried about it, I'm sure you guys are. So let's talk about it. Hey guys, welcome back to Better Questions, where our mission is to help encourage, support, and give hope to those who are affected by and raising kids on the spectrum, with special needs, with autism, with anything out there. So I have a special guest with me today.
Hello, I'm Rowan.
Okay, so Rowan, today we're going to do an interview. Sound good?
It's good.
It's good. Okay, let's do that.
Hey Ryan, how's it going, man? My name is Becky White, and I have been about 20 years in ministry. I am an MFT, so marriage and family therapist, a clinician, single mom of 4 sons. I have my oldest son's almost 30, and he and his wife are both marriage and family therapists up in Seattle. And then I have triplets that are almost 25. Logan is a pastor in Manhattan Beach. Boone is marketing director. And then I have my son, Cameron, and he is also obviously 25 and is pretty much cognitively overall at about 18 months. Some areas he's very sharp, other areas doesn't possess even what an 18-month-old would have, but basically nonverbal, struggles a lot with frustration out of his impairment. So he has been in a program since he was 3 and was placed in a group home at 13.
My name is Logan White. I'm 24 years old. I'm a youth pastor. I've been married for a year and a half. Got a dog and no kids, so it's going okay. How to describe Cameron? Cameron is a fun-loving guy, very high highs and very low lows, but he absolutely enjoys life a lot. You know, when he's feeling good, at least he's always uplifting in your day. But, he likes his toys a lot. He likes Disney movies, which we've seen countless times. Cameron's my brother.
My boys are all really similar. They all are very passionate. Every one of us cares a lot for what we care about. Soft hearts and a loud home is what I always said. Cameron is no different. He's very interested in what he likes. And what he likes are pretty basic. He likes Disneyland, to watch Beauty and the Beast, and he loves connecting toys. The way he stimulates himself and calms himself down is by creating a toy every day that he can manipulate in his hands, and he runs and jumps all day long.
How's your kid's childhood?
It was flexible. It was very grace-filled. So every day held something that we wouldn't expect. They had to be flexible around it. They had to be very patient. They had to be very kind, because he doesn't understand boundaries in any form. Well, not just physically harmful, but breaking toys. He just doesn't have any social understanding at all. Logan and Boone were in the same room with him for a long time, and whatever was theirs, he had access to, and whatever he had access to, he would often destroy. They gained a lot of capacity for life out of that. They were not entitled in any form. Even though I would have never desired the process that we had or that they had growing up in their childhood, it did create some strong character qualities in them. I felt like we always had fun, but it was always the need to be able to recognize what we were doing that was fun would have to stop if Cameron couldn't do it. The other part that was a darker side of that was he's violent, really violent. So they were injured by their brother. And I worked very hard to manage that, but he was violent with them. And he wasn't just violent because they never ever threatened him or caused or took things from him, but didn't need a trigger to have an outburst. And so he could do something in the middle of the night that was just out of the blue. That was the hardest part for the boys, not being able to know how to predict his behaviors. And so in the end, when he got bigger and he got more violent, we had to create spaces for them that were safe. So at night, we actually had doors locked with a key. Obviously not a safe way to run a house, but it was the only way we could manage and have Cameron where he was with us. Early on, it was just their toys were broken, but then it became much more dangerous. It was just very exhausting for everyone, but strength, obviously character building as well.
Mr. White, how was your childhood growing up?
My childhood was chaotic for sure. It was difficult at times, forcing you to have plans held pretty loosely. There's just stuff that you want to do that you plan to do that you just end up not doing or not being able to do because Cameron has changed. But I mean, I don't know if my childhood necessarily was chaotic or bad because of Cameron. Maybe because of what some of the stress of having an autistic brother causes in the family. Like, what my parents are divorced, the stress that has in the family really affects marriages a lot. So I think that, the financial struggles that go with all that kind of made life a little chaotic, crazy, more so than just having an autistic brother. But I wouldn't say my childhood was bad, and I wouldn't say that Cameron made my childhood bad or especially tough. I would just say that he made it unique, and unique isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Something that I worry about is resentment as they grow up. And I don't know how much of this is an unfounded emotion, but do you have any resentment, or did you ever have any resentment as you were younger? And when did that pass as you grew up and became an adult?
My mom did a really good job. Imagine even with 3 brothers, I never felt like I was not cared about or not like individualized ever. It wasn't like always just Cameron all the time, the reality of his life. So that wasn't a big problem that I would worry about a ton as a parent.
There's plenty of things to be freaked out about with raising kids in general, but that's not one I should worry about, right?
Definitely not on the top of the list for sure.
So what were some of the things that your mom did that kind of helped to make you feel individualized or gave you one-on-one attention?
We didn't have anything set up where we would go out and do something one-on-one, but I can just always remember the conversations that we have, and Cameron's in the other room hanging out and doing something, but she wasn't had to be right there with all of us. And she would come and talk to me, and we would have fun. We have time together, and we were able to still Mom would do stuff with just us when Cameron wasn't there. Do kind of fun little vacations, a little trip, kind of whatever, we're gonna staycation or whatever it is, just to make sure that we felt loved and make sure it's not like leaky, you'll always get the breeze kind of thing. And so she did a great job of taking time. And I think as a younger child, you always relate time to love or whatever, and as you grow up, you just kind of it's not always about time. It's about intention and those conversations that you have to demonstrate.
So how have you benefited, or how have you grown in some way by having a brother with autism?
Cameron's taught me incredible throughout my life, and incredible flexibility. Never been stuck in a plan and I have to do it, which has been helpful in my job and my career. Just not to be so stuck on one thing. It's really an unlearnable lesson outside of I just can't imagine the experience it would take going through stuff without having Cameron to learn patience. And just being able to understand people. You learn to let stuff kind of roll off your shoulders and understand that people need, right? Whether they're autistic or not, people need patience. And so that's an incredible skill that Cameron's been able to teach.
It's a good question, right?
Mm-hmm. Very good question. Very good question.
Silly.
Mm-hmm.
So was there anything you were really proud of that you were able to accomplish while balancing both Cameron's needs and the needs of your other sons?
I think what I was able to accomplish wasn't anything I could do. It was what was being done because they didn't get to do. They're millennials, but they are the least entitled people I know because they never got to win. When we were at a football game, Cameron lost it, we'd have to go home. They did without many things that most kids assume to be theirs. So my boys turned into very kind people that are hard workers without a lot of sense that they get things in life because number one, Cameron doesn't get anything. And so they wouldn't assume they get all of this stuff where Cameron is never going to experience any of it. But beyond that, I just felt like they were not spoiled in any form. Not that I had money to spoil them, but they weren't spoiled by anything. I would have done everything I could, but the outcome of all those things not happening was they weren't bitter, weren't angry. I mean, they had moments of that, but their souls and their hearts weren't like that. They actually are kind and very generous men, and they really care about each other. And I think they know they shared a unique experience. I mean, I just remember one time we're all sitting around watching TV. Trevor has 2 friends over, and he's in high school. And one of them turns around, his name was Jake, and he's like, "Oh my gosh!" And Cameron had a knife in his mouth. And the boys were like, "Oh, hey, Cameron, you should put that down." I mean, so it's just this sense of their friends were like, "What? You guys live in this weird universe where it's always crazy." But this was normal for them. And so I think they realized something's different. And I think the thing that I saw at such an early age, because they were triplets, they were so caring for their brother's dignity. They knew right away Cameron should be embarrassed by stepping out of the pool and becoming naked immediately. And so they would run over with a towel. They just, all those things where they realized Cam should care about this and he doesn't. So I'm going to make sure I care about it for him. which made them so lack selfishness. Because they really were thinking about him instead of themselves at a natural time where cognitively they should have been thinking about themselves only. But they skipped some of that. And even though it was not the childhood that was ideal, it was a very forming one that they had enough character quality to be able to get through.
Have you ever seen Jesus use Cameron's autism for something good?
I think there's this really tangible example. At my church right now, there is a kid on a spectrum, and he's pretty high functioning. He just came up into the youth group, but definitely, you can tell when you're around him, and it's just like that kind of awkward ticks things about him. And his mom, not really knowing my family story, so nervous about just the attention he would need, or just the distraction he would be, or do you do okay? Do you need to come and get him, or is it okay if he comes with you? And all these different things. And I was just able to I grew up with a brother who was autistic, and who was much, much lower function. I know how to do it, and I know how to deal with it because of my brother.
So what advice do you have for someone who is either a parent or a sibling of someone on the spectrum?
You have to push through the bad and focus on the good, like that verse Philippians 4:8. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such. I just think that with a autistic brother, there's plenty of things that are negative about it that you can choose to focus on it, but that's not helpful. And if you can choose to focus on the good and what's great and what's noble and what's excellent and what's praiseworthy, you can be so encouraged. And I've been so encouraged by Cameron by the things he does well, and things that are so noble about his character, and this, I was saying earlier, with his laughing joy that he has, that's so incredible that we're going to choose to focus on the positive things that it's so much more powerful than about negative things that happen. Yeah, but hopefully it's helpful to the parents out there who, or some siblings or whatever.
So Becky, what final advice do you have for parents?
Well, I think you've got to accept life the way it is, that's different. I think the parents that struggle the most are the ones who try to either find someone to blame for what's wrong, or try to find a cure that becomes the consuming part of their life. There were several times we did some more radical kinds of treatment, but for the most part, one of the gifts that God's given me is a heart that accepts Cameron not as wrong, that someone's to blame for, or not as wrong as something to fix, as much as somebody who has created so much change. And my job is to help mitigate any challenges his life holds by giving him as much joy as possible. So I think the acceptance of that and not making Cameron my crusade has allowed the other boys to feel like they were parented too. I was on the edge of anything that was new, Dr. Ashmore would tell us. But the truth is, this is who Cameron was. He needed a system around him that helped him succeed, but that was what our life was going to look like. And he was so great to tell me that. I think the people that told me the truth early on helped me so much to not try to get unrealistic expectations for Cameron, but at the same time, understand what he is responsible for. I think the balance of still trying to have a life and recognizing this isn't some weird pseudo ministry my boys have now with their brother, it's their childhood, and I still want them to have it. No, I think the biggest thing in terms of if the focus is truly in terms of the other kids, I think really accepting that God's doing something for them you can't do magically in the midst of all of this. And I am so sure of that in the last 2 years of my life, looking at my sons entering their lives as husbands, as businessmen, or as just watching them take care of the business of their life. These guys know how to live. They know how to do it right. And I don't see a lot of 25-year-olds who are able to do that. I mean, you walked Logan through buying a house at 25 in Southern California, and this kid knows what he wants to do, and he knows how to work hard. And I think that's one of the things that they had to see. Life was hard work for us. I had been an athlete, and so for me to raise my level of capacity to say I've got to do all these things was for me just like, okay, I know how to do this. But they saw that, and they saw that life was not easy. And I think they don't expect life to be easy. And that is a gift that you only get in certain ways. But we didn't feel sorry for ourselves. And that's a huge piece. But we accepted it. There's a piece that I have that a lot of people lack. And that piece is all I can do to manage. Because if your life is already hard and then you don't accept any peace from God about it, then you are not able to function, period. I wouldn't have functioned. But I not only can function at some level, not as high as I'd like to, but I can also help people in the midst of that. And my life isn't just about what's wrong with me or my son. It's really about who's God in the midst of this and all of those other things that are actually good.
All right, guys, thank you so much for watching today and getting all the way to the end. Please, if this is helpful, if there's anything you know that if there's any advice you want to add in there of your experience of being a parent with multiple children and of whom one is on the spectrum, or being a sibling of someone who's on the spectrum, please leave a comment down below. Let me know if this was helpful. Our mission, again, is to help encourage as many people as possible to give hope in a place that can be kind of dark and scary for people who aren't connected with the community. So please share, please like the video.
And if we get 1,000 likes, 1,000 loves, I'm gonna get a prize, and you want me to get a prize, right? Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day. Bye.